Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and tonight I've got a full house. Welcome tonight, Mac
Good evening.
and Gio.
What is good, guys?
We're going to be going over the action from the second match day of the 2024 Euros. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on our social media, both on X and Instagram. Our handle is at House of_Footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are on both Spotify and YouTube. And lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email. We love hearing from you guys, and we want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. All right, let's start off with the most recent action that really covers all of the matches from Group A. And today, they're recording, we saw Switzerland tie Germany 1-1, and Scotland, Hungary beating Scotland 1-0, last-minute winner in that game. So we know now the results. Germany topped the group, Switzerland coming second, Hungary third, and Scotland last. So I'm going to toss it to you first, Gio. From this group, I guess, what stood out to you in the second round of matches and the third round of matches that just took place today? Give us your thoughts.
A lot of scrappy fights, and evidently, Germany is very beatable. Clearly, they can have their bad days, and
Right.
I know everybody off the first game was like, "Oh my days, Germany is now a clear favorite." I think those thoughts and those opinions have kind of come back down to earth a little, which I think is fair, which is absolutely fair. So then now it goes to say, is Germany still a favorite based off their performance here? I think roster wise, yes, but if they play like this in the round of 16 quarterfinals, it's not going to look great. It's definitely not going to look great.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I thought as well. Switzerland played quite a good game, and were able to essentially minutes away from getting that win against Germany, and potentially even changing how this group would look like at the end of the day. Fulkrug, of course, getting the win, the tying goal towards the end of the game for Germany, but. Given that, I think it was Endoy who opened the scoring for Switzerland. Very, very impressed with how they can move the ball from back to front and are very direct when needed. And I think this is going to come big for them, especially when they do go on to face, because they do qualify for the next round, likely bigger, quote unquote, bigger nations. Those nations who are, of course, expected to come at them more, and they'll be relying a lot more on counterattacking. So that's going to be something interesting to watch for Switzerland. I'm pleasantly surprised for them there. And Germany, even though they didn't lose, like you said, there are some, I guess, holes that we can poke at, Mac, and maybe something that you can go off of. What did you think about this particular result?
Well, that result right there for me, it's all coming down to how Switzerland managed the wide channels, and that's with Abershire and Widmer. That was both their wing backs on either side of the pitch, and how were they able to combine with Fabian Schär and Jay Rodriguez, who were playing on either side of Akanji. That back five, what they're able to do by condensing the pitch so much, and really in some ways packing the middle, where Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz kind of had pulled the strings thus far in the tournament for Germany, is all kind of being the keys to unlock the final entry pass into the final third, if it be running behind from Gundogan or Kai Havertz. But Switzerland did such a good job of condensing the pitch, where they made it difficult to find those seams. With Musiala and Wirtz playing so centrally as well, there was not a natural, a wide attacking position where you're going to be like, oh, I'm worried about Joshua Kimmich getting on the overlap and crossing the ball. That's not really his game. And the weakest player on the pitch, in my opinion, for Germany was Mittelstadt. That's their left back. He, again, was not very comfortable possession. Allow him to have the ball. If they're going to cross into the box, again, it's to, in all likelihood, a Gundogan or Kai Havertz, and they will be able to manage there with the likes of Akanji, Rodriguez, and Fabian Schär. So defensively, I think Switzerland were spot on, and I think Julian Nagelsmann was very late in realizing an adjustment needs to be made. I definitely thought Leroy Sané, a player who is an electric, pacey winger who can create space out wide, stick him on that left-hand wing, give him like a full Krug in the box to be able to just drill crosses in, and find a different way, a different play style potentially to beat the Switzerland team. So I thought it was poor in Germany there. They lucked out. I was so close. There was only a couple minutes away for me to start this podcast saying my GOAT Granted, Xhaka topped the group in Germany. You know, I was gonna go through the neutrality over the Blitzkrieg any day of the week. That's how I was gonna start the podcast, but wasn't meant to be. End up sharing points here. I think it's very exciting for both these teams. Again, I think Switzerland was a little bit surprised, but they're going on to face whoever finished second in Group B, which we may talk about later. So that could be either Italy or Spain. So I think that they very much might follow a similar type of game template going in. So very excited for both these teams. To touch on, though, the other game of this group quickly, Hungary, Scotland. That's a little bit close to home. I am Scottish. As Gio would say, I identify as Scottish. I guess that's how you put it, right, Gio? No, but no, not really. But the point being is Scotland had potential at the end of this game to either come away with all 3 points or at least a point to be in a position to see themselves in a group stage to a knockout round if they had a little bit of favor in regards to other teams collecting points. But it wasn't meant to be. Hungary, with just like in the Germany-Switzerland game, had a last-minute winner. I think it was actually the last kick of the game. The whole time, it was my favorite part of the entire call was actually in the last second where the commentator was saying, oh, Szoboszlai, but then completely skips over who actually ended up scoring the goal because the reaction was, oh, it's going to Szoboszlai to be able to run into the box to be able to get onto it. But he ended up tripping and falling and someone else ended up scoring. So lovely to see that. Great drama. So lovely for the tournament. But from both teams' perspective, I think they're very much still fodder going into the next round if either of these teams, if Hungary does make it through or if Scotland were to make it, because there was an abundance of chances and just felt like it was a rock fight out there. Minus, it kind of felt like they showed up for a rock fight, but they didn't have any rocks. So they just threw fists. It was all a mishap and a little bit misshaken between those two teams. But it was a great spectacle for sure.
At times in this game, it looked like a WWE fight. Actually, to me, a lot of rough tackles, a lot of big chances back and forth. Very, very much so. Of course, I think the quality of these two teams, no disrespect to them, probably on the lower end compared to the other quality available in the competition. But very, very entertaining because both teams needed that win, and so they were just going all out. And of course, ultimately, Hungary did get the win at the end, winner, I think, with the last kick of the game. But even if they do go through, I think I'm not going to like their chances to continue past the knockout competitions there. Gio, any quick thoughts on this one or maybe any other action from the last round of games that we haven't covered that stood out to you from these last couple of days?
Many good games, but honestly, I just think when going into the tournament, I believe there were a lot of people were saying, a lot of clear favorites. I don't think there's a clear favorite. Even when Belgium played their second game, obviously they lost their first game, but came back and played a very decent game, quite a decent game actually against Romania, albeit against Romania. And the other thing is, when Turkey won their first game, everybody's saying, oh, they're going to be a dark horse team. A lot of people saying, oh, yeah, they're going to be a dark horse team. Arda Güler, obviously. One man isn't going to win this tournament or doesn't make you a dark horse team. Portugal showed them that it's a lot about talent throughout the pitch. And they have so much offensive talent that they could have had 4 or 5 goals, that the Netherlands-France game also very close, but also showed how poor the build-up play is between both these sides. Yes, the Netherlands defensively very, very sound, which I think we can all agree on. But I think France is the biggest disappointment thus far, going forward, and putting goals in the back of the net. Yes, they can create chances, but in terms of how clinical they are, I think everybody would agree with me in saying they have been quite the disappointment.
Yeah, France definitely. We could definitely touch a bit on that, but I did want to go back into something that you kind of started your point with there, Gio, and selfishly, I guess I want to see your guys' reaction on that Portugal win against Turkey in I think it's Group F.
Yeah.
That to me was a marker. Portugal balled out. They got a lot of their players getting on the score sheet, even the own goals category, racking up those tallies. But apart from, of course, that comical own goal that happened, it was great to see, of course, Bernardo Silva getting on score sheet, Cristiano Ronaldo playing the assist maker, that square pass to Bruno Fernandes. And even, like I said, it was great to see Bruno Fernandes being very active, Rafael Leao causing a lot of chances. But even for the older players like Cristiano Ronaldo and Pepe, they had quite good performances in this game. Cristiano Ronaldo rolling back the years. Gio, maybe you caught a glimpse of that, making some step overs on the right hand side, beating his player. And then Pepe going for a marauding run towards the end of the game, and then being subbed off and getting a standing ovation from both the Portuguese and Turkey fans. Great to see. So that's what I wanted to point out. Portugal, I think we kind of talked about this. They're one of the teams that maybe not everyone has as favorites, but this game really shows that with this result, they will likely top the group. If I had to put money on it, I will say they will top the group and have a favorable draw going into the knockout competitions. So that's one of my, I guess, standout performances. Mac, what did you think about that?
In regards to Group F, absolutely. I think in terms of the inner circle tournament favorites that we in our preview podcast talked about, they look like the best team thus far. Again, it's only been 2 games for the majority of them, but they have looked like the best team thus far. They're the only team I would say playing at the level as they should be. I would argue though, and I think we talked in that preview podcast, this very much should be a walkover group for them. They should be doing this, right? It's very much expected for them. When they actually face a better team, will this trend continue? I think there are still some key areas of the pitch that they can be a little bit exposed to, especially in my opinion. I know you may have highlighted them, but in a Pepe position, in transition, defensively in the midfield, they can be a little bit soft, a little bit brittle. But they should have enough quality to be a threat against any team. And like I said, from the inner circle of favorites, they've been playing the best thus far. So they definitely obviously should stay there. For me, though, the really surprises have been the other end of the spectrum for the favorites. And for me, that starts with, again, I'm going to go back to home here. I'm going to go with England. Again, that was an absolutely horrendous performance, in my opinion, against the Danes. It was, again, just like I kind of called out for what could potentially be a weak spot for Portugal is a weak spot for England very much right now in the center of midfield. And for me, the combination of Trent, Declan Rice, and Jude Bellingham has absolutely been poor. I think the only one that's done at least average has been Declan Rice. Jude Bellingham, in my opinion, based off these last 2 games, should not stick for England. He was absolutely horrendous. Trent should be going back to Liverpool right now. It's just they neither of them are good enough, in my opinion. I think the best player on the pitch for England in a lot of ways was the tie between Phil Foden and Mark Gahey, and Phil Foden again is still playing out of position. So for me, very, very poor across the pitch from a lot of the English players, especially in that midfield. And again, will Southgate make any changes? No, he's never done that. He just always does the exact same thing. He sets his mind at the beginning of the tournament, sticks to it. But it's disappointing because a lot of people have been crowning Jude Bellingham as Real Madrid's best player. Based off what we've seen for England, I guess he just happens to be on a good team and he gets carried. And is this me calling him out and hoping that I'm double jeoparding? I'm kind of, keep putting bad karma out there so I get it back in my favor, Maybe. Obviously, I would like that to be the case. But at least what we've seen thus far in these 2 games, he shouldn't be playing.
Yeah, and well, that's a big call to make. And the next game is against Slovenia, I believe. They already played Serbia, so Slovenia is the last team they'll play. I think this is the perfect time to switch things up. Realistically, England will beat Slovenia even if they play an average game. So why not switch it up here, I think, in this game? Whereas Denmark and Serbia, they'll be definitely battling it out between themselves to, I think, try to come up in second place. So I still think that England will have a favorable result here against Slovenia, and maybe they'll switch things up and hopefully get some energy into that squad, because even though they went up 1-0 through Harry Kane, after conceding the goal, I don't think they created enough with the quality on paper that they do have to really show like how we saw Portugal. And even though a team like Spain only beat Italy by 1 goal, they were on the front foot the whole game, and that really shows the difference in quality. I guess so, not necessarily quality in mentality, which really dictates how you will eventually play out your game. So I'm not sure, Gio, you have any
I
thoughts
just want
on
to jump in there one more time, and it's an absolutely infuriating because I don't know if you saw the post. I am an avid viewer of this, but Gareth Southgate's comments after the match saying the problem is we don't have a like for like replacement for Calvin Phillips, and that's the issue. We haven't been able to figure out how to replace that. That's like LeBron coming out and saying right now, like he did and doing his LeBron moment, was like, oh, we didn't have Jared Vanderbilt against the Denver Nuggets, that's why we couldn't win. What are we doing here? What legitimately what are we doing here? We're just saying stuff to say stuff. It's infuriating. I apologize, but Gio, yeah, if you want to hate on England too, please join it.
No, I think again, it's much to the point that I made in a previous podcast. He's playing players out of position simply because of the name of the player and the stature of the player, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we as football fans have to witness this because we know what these players can do when they are in the right team. But again, Garrett Southgate hasn't put out the right team, and he will get a lot of slack if the quote unquote right team, even if he did put out a team that objectively is a better team. And by team, I hope the listeners know what I mean. Objectively a better team. He'll still probably get slack for it. But I think, for the average football fan, this is not ultimate team. You don't get to just slot in, 95 overall players onto whatever position you want and it work, because this is not a video game. Certain players can only do so much and other players can do more. So I think this will continue to happen until he decides to play Trent as a wing back, possibly. Would that still allows him that offensive freedom, or drop Jude back, play Foden up in the 10, where he truly feels comfortable. Because when we saw him play in the middle of the pitch and have that freedom, we saw him ring it off the post. We saw him try to make those dink passes that he ever loves to do to Julian Alvarez at Man City. So I don't understand why it's taking him so long to grasp these ideas as a England manager. But something's got to give, and if it doesn't give soon, they'll probably get by this round, but the next round might not look too pretty.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll take a quick break here, guys. We have some more action to, of course, preview in our next part. So I don't want to get too involved in that just yet. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back with that for you guys. So stay with us, guys. Welcome back to House of Footy, guys. We are going to continue now just discussing what upcoming games we're looking forward to. Of course, we are now getting into the third round of matches, the final round of matches from the group stage. So a lot to be decided in this match day coming up. Mac, any specific matchup stand out to you?
One for me is what I'm looking at, and I know I'm taking a step back and looking at the previous game, but for me, it's vitally important for France to come in with a phenomenal performance against Poland. They should beat them. In all likelihood, they will. But in my opinion, they very much may need to, because this performance may tee them up to being an unfavorable part in the knockout rounds. Because the second place for Group D faces a second place for Group E, which is Belgium. And not to say that I think that France would necessarily struggle against a Belgian team if all things end up being equal. But having a favorable matchup to allow Mbappe to come back seems to be their key importance. Gio mentioned earlier where it's not going to take one player to potentially win the tournament. But for France, it seemed like after this most recent performance in the Netherlands, France may not score if they don't have one player in their starting 11. Right? Where it seems like offensively they were caught in standstill. Going into our last podcast brought up where we needed a very much big game from Dembele, and he no-showed that again. I don't know if he was still thinking about some hospital visits. Maybe that's an easy hit. I don't know. But point being is where there wasn't a driving thrust in terms of, okay, here's how we're going to try to beat our man one-on-one. And from that domino effect, something else may happen. Dembele tried certain moments. Marcus Thuram took a couple shots, ended up in throw-ins. There wasn't really anything. And Griezmann, yes, I think is a useful player but I think he's more of an accent to other great players around him versus being that driving thrust of a player to kind of drag his team across the finish line. So there is enough there. Defensively, they've been great, but they need that game breaker, that player, again, to cause that first breakdown to create opportunities. And right now, without Mbappe, it seems like they don't have that, or Deschamps has to rejig the lineup a little bit for this last game against Poland. Again, it should be easier against Poland. They have not. They've scored 2 goals thus far, but have conceded 5. Haven't looked great. Lewandowski, I didn't think he didn't even start the last game. So they really should be a threat. You should just be able to walk over them and even potentially make it help from Austria because they're a good team facing Netherlands. But for France, I think they need to come out and have a statement performance to get that thrust up, to get that belief maybe back in their camp that, hey, we are the favorite. We are the big dog. Everyone should be afraid of playing us. We shouldn't have to sit here and worry about the next round matchup, which right now, it kind of looks like they are.
It's very vital that they get a convincing win here, Matt, because if France expect the Mbappe to, after missing 2 games, come in and just hit the ground running, it's going to be tough if he doesn't. And like we've been talking about how disappointing England was in the last game out, England and France, both tournament favorites, need a big win going into the knockout stages because you don't want to go into the knockout stages having come unconvincingly topping the group or just squeak by in second, and then having to play a stronger quote-unquote opponent in that knockout stage. So definitely need a team performance in this game that will hopefully get them a couple of goals against a Polish side that unfortunately for them just doesn't look like they're up to the standard of the tournament. So yeah, it looks like it's the best matchup that they could have. Though Netherlands and Austria, like you said, Mac, though both teams are going to look to get all 3 points here to sort of take that second spot away from each other. And so France should look to secure at least all 3 points and at least a couple of goals. I guess the way that Portugal did in the last game out. Well, what do you think about that, Gio?
No, I think you guys kind of hit it on the nose. France have everything to prove, although, like I talked about earlier, they're so good, but they've looked so flat offensively. They're just almost at this point just kind of trying to funnel the ball to Mbappe and kind of let him be a one-man show. Yes, there are glimpses from Dembele, good crosses in, decent opportunities, but again, not clinical enough. And I hate to be that guy to say it because, obviously you play for Manchester United, but they're missing a very good midfielder that has had great Euros. He may not perform for his club, but he's been solid at the Euros, and his name is Mr. Paul Pogba. They're almost kind of missing that central player because Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Rabiot, N'Golo Kante. N'Golo Kante is a workhorse, but is he going to ping you that ball to push that offense and to break that back line? He isn't. He simply isn't. So, when you're looking for someone to blame or looking for where the hole is, as much as Paul Pogba has flopped in his second stint at Man United, at his second stint at Juve, he is that guy in the midfield where he's able to break those lines. And without that, you see where the struggle is because they're forcing out on the wings, but all the teams know that they want to cross it or they want to cut it and shoot. So they just have to sit a little deeper and wait for their opportunity. And that's what teams have been doing. And teams have been drawing and, losing by a goal, which isn't that bad. So, this last game is going to be huge for France. They're going to have to figure out a way to kind of pivot, or if not, one of these midfielders are going to have a game of their lives.
Yeah, and to that point, that just stood out to me that like the players that you mentioned, Rabiot, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, even Kante to a certain point, if they have poor offensive games, no one will really pick those mistakes out. I would say to the point that someone like Griezmann, or if Paul Pogba was playing in this tournament, they would be sort of harshly criticized for their lack of output offensively. And those are the type of players that you need definitely against low blocks to just break lines and give you a moment that can create a chance. Those are the players that you would need if you, of course, are missing your talisman in Mbappe. So that definitely rings true to me. What do you think, Gio?
or even a shot from outside the box from your midfielders. I have seen very few of those. Very few of those. Yes, if your front three isn't working, have a go. But I don't see it. I don't see Chouameni. I don't see Camavinga doing it. Griezmann, if you want to drop back and maybe, create that space for Mbappe to work one-on-one, Dembele to work one-on-one, then maybe drop back a little. But, he's kind of playing that poacher type right now, and it's just causing a lot of congestion in the box.
Exactly. Okay, so Joe, we've kind of touched on that. I think that's Group D with Netherlands, France, Austria, and Poland. Any other games or matchups that stand out to you in this upcoming match day 3? I think we have Groups B and E that we haven't touched on as much.
There's Group B. I would just want to quickly touch on. Croatia and Italy. I know It may not mean much to Croatia, but I think for morale's sake, they're going to try and win. They're sitting fourth, 1 draw, 1 loss. But hey, that's going to be a tough ask for Croatia. Yes, they might feel a little hard done with the draw, but this Italy is going to feel a little hard done by that 1-0 loss to Spain, it coming from an own goal. So we're going to see how they can secure, because evidently, if Croatia wins and Albania loses, they still have a shot at this. They have that 1 point. If they get this win, it can mean the world. It can change everything. And, when you talk about, dark horse or maybe Cinderellas, it can be this Croatia side. They are able to turn around. They have that veteran presence in a Luka Modric, in a Perisic, those guys who've gone to the World Cup. So they know what it takes. They simply need just to, have their luck turn around and in their favor just a little bit.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to this match. Day of recording is actually taking place tomorrow on Monday. Spain, Albania, I'm going to be honest, it's pretty much a wrap. Spain might be just rotating the squad here. Albania will be looking to get some points here as well. But even with a second or a B side, I think Spain will have all 3 points here. Italy and Croatia, though, like you said, Italy is going to want to get 3 points and push Spain all the way through to the end to see who will actually top the group. But Croatia, if they do win, they will be one of the only teams, I think, in third place that have 4 points. And that, I think, pretty much guarantees them a knockout stage berth with those point tallies. I'm not necessarily expecting Austria or Poland to get points in the next games. Slovakia, Ukraine, perhaps there. Czech Republic, Georgia, we'll see. But I think just the fact that if Croatia do get a win against Italy, it tosses things up in that group, and we could see all 3 of those teams. No disrespect to Albania, go through and make things interesting in the next group. Next knockout stages. What do you think, Mac?
So, if Croatia if Croatia win, they go through automatically. They're second, just to secure that. The question is Italy. With 3 points, that should still be, we assume, sufficient. It will come down in all likelihood to goal difference. And right now, their goal difference is a flat even. So, in all likelihood, they should still be comfortable, because a lot of the other teams that are finished in third place have a negative goal difference as of right now. So, that will really much be the differentiator, in my opinion. However, though, that's meaning we're banking on Croatia to win, which thus far defensively, I think they're tied for the most goals against. And that really is not because of the defense. For me, the biggest sticking point a lot of teams had going into this tournament about, which team looks the best for whatever reason in different areas of the pitch has been their midfield. And that's probably been their weakest part. It's slow, it's lethargic, it's getting cut through. They try to play in possession, and I've mentioned a lot of podcasts, it's like they're someone drowning, trying to gasp for air. Is because the only reason why that they stay alive is when they have the ball, because they don't, and in transition, they're cooked. So I would be very interested to see, do they go in with a different mindset? I know it's very, very much against their style of play, but I think that they should try to set up in a low block against Italy. Italy, I would argue, are probably one of the better teams in transition, with a player like Chiesa on the wing to be able to go at, again, a weak, old, soft, brittle Croatia midfield. I'm sorry, just it is what it is as of right now. But if you sit in the low block, allow Italy to try to break them down and force them to get frustrated, because Italy, like you had mentioned, Ray, want to come out and win it to secure their position. I understand a tie for them is enough, but if they win the game and they get any help from Albania with we assume a weakened Spain squad, they still have a shot at top in the group. In addition, if they want to come out with a good performance as well, because whoever they end up facing in the knockout rounds, they want to set themselves up more strongly. So I think you heap the pressure on Italy, make them come at you, see if you can then kind of hit them in transition. If it be on the break or even set piece, which Croatia can be really good at, just given how they could be a big, strong, burly team. But it seems like thus far this tournament they try to be a little bit too finesse. So I'll be interested to see what happens there. It would be very, very funny though if Albania beat Spain. Again, it won't happen. But if I'm Spain, I kind of want it to happen in some ways, because then again, you're still going to finish top of the group. You have a positive 4-goal difference. That means Italy has to beat Croatia 4-0 for them to be tied at that point, and then it will go at a head-to-head record, and they should be comfortable there. So it would throw a whole lot of kind of havoc into the group, and it'll make the Italy-Croatia game ending a little bit more exciting if we see Albania even tied towards the end of the game, right, where both teams are going to feel a little bit of more pressure, which is always very exciting that these games are played at the exact same time. So again, I'm very dubious of Croatia. I actually think they're going to lose quite convincing to Italy, because I don't think that's how to set up the play. I think they are going to be hit off the break in transition, and they're going to kill it that way. And this will be the last tournament for a lot of these players.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I do love the fact that like you said, Mac, these games are played at the exact same time, so a lot of drama that could happen, very much like happened today with two very late goals in the Germany and Hungary games, respectively. Group E then is essentially the last group that we haven't touched on too much, and that actually is a very even group with regards to the standings. All four teams are on 3 points. Romania it goes Romania, Belgium, Slovakia, and Ukraine based on, I believe, goal difference. And with Belgium's win against Romania, I think we can all agree we slightly edged them to be back to their old selves. They do have, I believe, Ukraine in their last game out, which will be interesting because even though Ukraine didn't have the greatest time out against Romania, they were able to get that win against Slovakia. And very much two teams that we expected to come top of the group. They'll be battling it out really this time around to see who can get all 3 points in this game, while Romania and Slovakia as well themselves do the same. So anything to point out from all these four teams, Gio, that are taking place for Group E? Of course, will we actually get finally a Lukaku goal in in this game against Ukraine? I think having 3 goals ruled out so far this tournament. What do you think, Gio?
I think everybody needs to come in with the expectation that Belgium is looking to come in to destroy Ukraine. And by destroy, I mean it really needs to be convincing. Yes, you won 2-0 against Romania, but going into it, you need to almost prove the doubters wrong before you head out of this group stage. It needs to happen for Lukaku's sake. If Belgium needs to make a deeper run in this tournament, I believe he either needs to have a couple of assists or have a goal. Doesn't have to be the winning goal. The winning goal will help immensely more so, but he needs a goal under his belt. Just for that mentality sake, kind of breaking the ice, kind of proving the doubters wrong, so that he can play without that burden on his back that he hasn't scored a goal. They're going to face tougher competition. They're going to face stiffer competition. They're going to face defensively more sound teams, and he needs to be on his game. We've seen the highs of Lukaku. We've seen the lows of Lukaku. We've seen what he's capable of, but now he just needs to, kind of dig into his bag a little and show that, prove the naysayers wrong again, because he did. He left Chelsea and he left United and had an immense season at Inter Milan. So he can do it again. He just needs to prove it again. and try his best, I guess. But God bless to him, because I know these football fans are ruthless.
He needs to reach in his bag and push away the Tims to the side. Maybe find some finesse and get a goal here.
Yeah, take the jeans off. Take the Tims and the jeans off. You need to put your football boots on, brother.
Mac, same question to you then. Are you still sort of on that Belgium likely to top the group, or is there a surprise waiting for us at the end of match day 3 from this group?
To be frank, I don't know. I know as we're analyzing what could happen here, this game is a crapshoot because we've seen across all 4 of these teams, they played one good game and one bad game. And that's why it right now points are level. The only thing separating it, as you mentioned, is goals difference and even goals for between Romania and Belgium right now on who's topping the group. So it's theoretically possible anything can happen, of course. If we just go off, let's say, base quality, Belgium should be the best team and has not just the best player in the group, probably 3 of the top 5 best players across all 4 of these teams. I think that's a fair argument, even with sliding in Lukaku in one of those spots. No matter how estranged Gio or other Manchester United fans may feel about him, or Chelsea fans now, I guess. Hey, he's your problem. But I think the good part going into it is where we've seen so many twists and turns in these knockout round game, in these group stage games, in the most recent round of fixtures as well, where Ukraine, who had to come back to even get the win, to put themselves in a shouting distance as well. So I think even an early lead, neither of these teams can feel comfortable. If I'm Belgium, I think you want to be able to come out and make sure that you kind of take this game away early as possible, because I think the longer it sets on for this Belgium team, the more and more it's going to eat into their head, eat into their system, and where Ukraine's potentially going to be able to get back into the game and potentially press them. Because for them, Belgium, I feel like have to finish top of this group to have any chance going into making a deeper run and still being a true dark horse team. For them to have like any shot at that. The interesting matchup for me right now is and because we can assume Belgium probably going to beat Ukraine, is the Romania-Slovakia. If that's the case, does Romania still potentially have enough in them to be able to top the group? Slovakia will come back to do so. I think either of these teams, I'll be frank with you, this really shows kind of the poor group, because if you would, let's say, flip any of these teams with how well, I know we're using comparison from earlier with Turkey, I think Turkey's probably top in the group because they played a better game than we've seen from any of these 4 teams. So even though we don't know what will turn out between all 4 of these teams, and very much so in my opinion between Romania and Slovakia, I think these are just in all likelihood cannon fodder for the next round of whoever's going to face them. I know that's rough to say, but again, I was watching the Romania Belgium game with my wife, and she's like, "Romania is a country? I thought that was made up. Is that where Dracula's from?" I'm like, no. And that just lets you know what's their likelihood of going. Even if they do make it to knockout rounds, are they going to see the second round of that? No, probably not. Right? But again, all to play for, all to see, and anything could still happen between all 4 of these teams. That's why, again, going into it, I would not bet on any of these games. I would say it's far away. I would just watch the chaos from a distance, because at the end of the day, between these teams, there's no clarity of what we're going to get out of them on a game by game, or even in some cases half by half from these teams.
Yeah, and all to play for. That's why we play. Anything can happen, and I'm excited for the drama that will unfold, of course, later this week. But this concludes our podcast for today. If you guys like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at @HouseOf_Footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, get in touch with us via email as well. houseoffooty@hotmail.com is our email. The next time you hear from us will be later this week when we review the 3rd round of the matches from the 2024 Euros. But until then, thank you, Mac, for joining us.
Fuck you, Jude Bellingham. Sorry.
Thank you, Gio.
Peace out, guys.
And see you guys soon.